All right, and we have hit that 10 o'clock mark, so I'm going to get us rolling here. Good morning and welcome. My name is Joe Skelly and I'm a digital book specialist here at Overdrive. I'm joined by my teammate Marissa, and this morning we'll be taking you through our Learn Libby with the Experts webinar, and we're going to jump in here with our Getting Started demo. So before we dive in, I have a few housekeeping items I'd like to cover. We are recording our sessions this morning, and you will receive that recording in an email tomorrow morning from Zoom. Since we know that everyone learns at a different pace, we like to offer this recording, and we just suggest that you watch as we go through the Libby app and wait to try out Libby on your own until after we wrap up this Getting Started section. So that way you're not missing out on anything, and you can just kind of take notes and absorb everything, and also know that you can review that recording. If you have any questions about anything at all, you can ask Marissa and I throughout the entire webinar by using the Q&A button. Now, of course, you can ask questions anonymously if that makes you more comfortable. And if one of us is talking or presenting, the other will be answering questions in that Q&A box. This is your only way to reach us. We do have the chat and raise hand features disabled because the recording will store and show the questions in playback. So we like to make sure that every question is in one easy to see place and all of the answers we provide appear there as well. Last but certainly not least, sometimes when we connect a mobile device, like we're going to do in a little bit here, Zoom cuts off part of the screen, but we've got directions, so you don't need to worry about that. Marissa will be chatting those out when I get my iPad connected here in just a minute. If for any reason you don't see her message, you can just type it in as a question and we'll get that answered in the Q&A as well. All right, let me grab my device here. It was charging. So this morning, I am going to take you through the download and sign in process before I hand things off to Marissa. Marissa and I are both using iPads. The Libby app is a free app available on Apple, Android, or you can use Libby in a browser at libbyapp.com. There we go. Now, whether you are using an iPad or an iPhone or a Samsung device or any of your typical smartphones or tablets, Libby will look exactly the same regardless of the device you're using, or even if you're using Libby in a computer browser on libbyapp.com, everything's designed to look the same across the board, so you'll never have to worry about anything being confusing or different. The only difference you're going to see is where we're going to download the app. So you can download Libby on Apple mobile devices and Android mobile devices. We're going to start off with that now. So I'm all connected. So for my Apple users, you'll be going to your blue App Store icon. If you're on an Android device, you'll be looking for the Google Play Store. It's a multicolored play button or multicolored triangle that will allow you to go and download apps. We're just looking for our typical place where we would go to find and download those apps. So I'm going to tap on the search box here. And let's type in what we're looking for, Libby. And then I'm just going to tap on search, because when I do that, Libby will be the first result that pops up, or the second if there's an ad first. We know we're looking for Libby by Overdrive. It's this maroon app with Libby reading her book. Now you'll notice on my screen it says open. That's because I already have Libby downloaded on my device. But on your screen, if you're on Apple, it will say get. If you're on Android, it will say install. Once again, Libby is completely free, so tap get or install and follow the instructions on your screen. You might have to sign into your app store. Give that free app a minute to download. And then we'll leave the app store and navigate to wherever that new Libby app has downloaded on our device. So I'm seeing that same icon right there. So when we open Libby up the first time, we have a few questions to answer so she can help us find our library and get signed in with our library card. Now you'll only have to do this the first time you set up Libby. So either the very first time like we're doing right now, or if you set up Libby on another device. After your device is all set up, she'll remember all of that info so you can always dive right back in to whatever you're reading or listening to. So I'm going to answer her questions here. I do have a library card, so that's a big old yes. And now we need to find our library. Now for my first time users getting started, I'm going to recommend this I'll search for a library button, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. I want to point out this copy from my other device button. If you have multiple devices that you want to use Libby on, to set them up quickly so you can skip adding your library card more than once that first one is set up, you can tap this copy from my other device. Libby will give you the steps and you can go through that. Since we're focusing on setting up for the first time right now, we're going to click into this I'll search for a library. I love this option because you can search by the name of your library, the city you live in, or your zip code. So I'm going to go with the zip today. There we go. And I'm looking for Ocean County Library. I'm just going to tap on this box here. That's my digital collection. You'll see the address and the name of your branch appear. And so while we are in the digital collection, we're not fully in yet, we're not done. We still need to add our library card. And Libby's asking us to do that right here. Let's add a card. So I'm going to tap on Enter Library Account Details. And then we'll just sign in with our library card number. So you'll need to have that card handy and enter those numbers that appear on the card, no dashes or spaces, just the numbers. And once those are in, we'll tap on Sign In. And there we go. I entered it correctly because a card has appeared on my screen. I see I have up to 10 digital loans and 5 digital holds. So that's how many books I can borrow or place holds on. One final step here, we just need to tap on Next. And now we have access to our library's entire collection of ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines. So that wraps up the download and sign in process. I'm going to hand it off to Marissa. She's going to take us through the very basics we need to know to live with a Libby app every day and get the most out of it. If you have any questions, of course, you can ask those in that Q&A button at any time. Marissa will be walking us through a lot of wonderful features on her iPad today. She is using a demo library from Overdrive, so you'll see a different logo at the top of her screen, but all of the functionality is exactly the same. Looks like Marissa's all connected, so I'm going to hand it off to her. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Joe. So this is where I just give that another reminder that if you can't see the bottom of my screen here, Joe is going to chat out instructions again for how to adjust your zoom ratio. And the thing you're looking out for is the bottom navigation bar. You should see 5 icons there. They will start with a magnifying glass and end with a clock icon. So if you can't see those 5 icons, just follow those directions that Joe chatted out and you should be good to go. And we are going to start down at the bottom of the screen here with these icons. I'll talk about all of these icons throughout the presentation, but we're going to start off to the left of the Libby icon. So you can see the Libby icon in the very center. And then if you go directly to the left, there's a library card and it's purple. So we're going to start on that purple library card here. Your library card is where you're going to tap when you want to browse your library's digital collection of ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines. So the library card icon is when you don't know exactly what you're looking for and you just want to see what the library has in their collection. So we're on that tab right now, and I'm going to start up here at the top of the screen. You'll see that there are some filters that you can start browsing with. So if you want to look for books because they're popular or books that are available now, or maybe you want to search for a specific subject, like you want to look at books that are in the mystery section, then you can do that with these filters up here at the top of the screen. This is where I like to start a lot of my searches. It's a really nice, easy way to look for books. Now, as we scroll down this page, that's when you're going to start to see some catalog guides. And these are all going to differ from library to library, so yours might not look exactly the same as mine does, but this is just another way that the library can curate books into specific categories so that they are easier to find. Now, as we make our way even farther down the page, that's when you'll start to see curated collections that your library puts together for you. And these are going to change month to month or week to week, or whenever the library wants to show you something fresh and new. So you can think of this like if you were to walk into the physical library during, right now it's Asian and Pacific Islanders Month, they might have, a curated collection on a display showing titles that represent that month. This is just the digital version of that, so they can change all the time. So like I said, this page here, that library card tab, that's where you're going to go if you don't know exactly what you're looking for and you just want to browse around the library. If you do know exactly what you're looking for, that's when you're going to tap on the magnifying glass instead. So I'm going to tap on this magnifying glass. And this is where you can type in a title or an author, a magazine name, or even a series name. So you know exactly what you're looking for, and you're just going to type that into the search bar up here at the top. Now, we can choose one of these search suggestions if we want to. I always like to just tap on search in my device's keyboard. That way it's capturing everything that would populate in that search instead of something specific. So you can see it captured 13 books and then 6 audiobooks. So I'm going to scroll down just a tiny bit here. And there's a couple things I want to point out when you are searching for a book. So the first thing I'm going to point out is how you can visually tell the difference between an ebook and an audiobook. So you have to choose what format you borrow before you borrow it. So just a warning there. Audiobooks are going to have a square jacket cover, so it's kind of cut in half. And then right underneath that jacket cover, you'll see a set of headphones and then the duration of the audiobook. If you're in a search like this, you will also see play sample. An ebook, on the other hand, is going to have a full jacket cover, so you can see it's a rectangle instead of a square. There aren't any icons underneath. And then when you're in a search, you'll see read sample instead of play sample. So just a couple visual indicators so that you know what format you're borrowing before you borrow it, because you can't change it after you borrow it. Another difference that I want to point out here is the difference between titles that are available to borrow right now and then titles that you have to join a wait list for. So you can see here, this ebook version, it says borrow right next to the jacket cover. That means it's available right away. You don't need to join a wait list. It is good to go. Now, if the title says place hold next to the jacket cover, that means there's currently someone reading every copy that the library owns, and that means you'll have to join the waiting list to get in line. Super easy to do that. All you have to do is tap on place hold. That's going to bring you to a confirmation page here. And on that confirmation page, you will see approximately how long that title will take to get to you. And then you can tap on place hold to confirm. Now, once you confirm that you want to place that hold, that's when Libby gives you a few options for what to do next. Let's go ahead and say keep browsing. And what that's going to do is take us right back to the same search that we were making, so you don't lose your spot or anything. I'm going to tap on keep browsing and scroll up just a little bit. You can see that I'm still searching for Untamed. And now that audiobook is on my hold shelf. Now let's go ahead and borrow the ebook version. So when you're ready to borrow a book, you can tap on borrow next to the jacket cover. Or if you don't know what that book is about yet and you want to read that back jacket cover, you can just tap on the jacket cover itself, and that will take you to the details page. So you'll be able to read what that book is about. and you'll have the option to borrow from this screen as well. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on borrow here. And this is going to take us to the borrowing confirmation page. Now, up at the top of that confirmation page, you'll see that we're borrowing Untamed for 14 days. Now, 14 days is the default lending period at your library, but you can change this to 21 days by tapping on 14 days and then switching it to 21 in this menu here. Now, you're going to have to do this once for ebooks and then once for audiobooks. So once per format, and then that's when Libby's going to remember that you set your default to 21 days, and moving forward, they'll automatically come for 21 days. And titles do return automatically on their due date. So after that 21 days is over, the title will return to the library and you don't have to worry about late fees. All right, let's go ahead and confirm that we're going to borrow this book. I'm going to tap on borrow here. And this is when Libby's going to start downloading my book for offline use. So Libby does this automatically when you're on Wi-Fi. She'll download the title for offline use so that if you don't want to any longer be on Wi-Fi or use cellular data, you could take your device up into a plane on airplane mode. You could go out to the beach and your book will still work perfectly fine. Now, it's taken a second here. My internet here at home might be a little bit slow, but let's go ahead. It will continue downloading in the background. Oh, there we go. Once you get that check mark, that's when you know that it is fully downloaded for offline use. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tap Open Book. This is going to open my book here for me. So up at the top of the screen and the bottom of the screen, that's where you're going to see some menus. Now, this bottom one is taking a second to load here. Again, working from home, sometimes that can be a little shaky. So I'm going to tap on the center of the screen. That's what's going to drop those menus out of the way. And then when you tap on the center of the screen again, they will reappear. You can see that bottom menu now is showing me my reading progress. So I'm 1 page in with 379 pages to go. All right, again, I'm going to drop those menus out of the way by tapping on the center of the screen. And then I'm going to page forward by tapping or swiping on the right side of the screen. So you can see as I tap my finger, we're moving ahead, and I'm going to go quick and get to a big chunk of text. There we go. So one of the great things about Libby is that you can customize your ebook experience to meet your needs. So every book can be a large print book, or every book can have dark background. It's really all what you prefer most. So I'm going to show you how you can change those reading appearances. We're going to tap on the center of the screen. That's going to make those menus reappear. And then up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see an A icon. That A stands for appearance. So we're going to tap on appearance and change what our book looks like. In our appearance menu, there are 3 things you can change. The first is the text scale. So we can use this slider here to increase or decrease the font size. Next, we have our lighting. So Libby is by default in bright mode, but you can always change it to sepia or this dark mode here if you want something a little easier on your eyes or you want to read at night. The last thing you can change in Libby is your font. That's under book design. So under book design, you'll have all these fonts listed. This custom option will even allow you to increase the amount of space in between your sentences. I like that. I always like to point out this open dyslexic font as well, because it might help some users with dyslexia to read. Now, I am going to change these all back to my default here, and that's because these are sticky settings. And what I mean by sticky settings is you're only going to have to make these customizations to your ebooks one time per device. So if you're going to be on a phone and a tablet, you'll have to do it twice, but once per device. And then Libby is going to automatically deliver those titles to you with those customizations in place. So you're not going to have to change these every time you borrow a book. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tap on hide. That's going to drop that menu out of the way. And then let's leave this ebook and hop into an audiobook. So I'm going to be tapping back up in the top left-hand corner here. But just remember, when you're reading a book, those menus are going to be out of the way. So you're going to tap on the center of the screen to make them reappear. And then that's when you'll see that back button. So I'm going to tap back. And you can see it took me back to my little borrowing page, details page here. So I'm going to reorient everyone down at the bottom of the screen here. So if you come down to the navigation bar with me, first you're going to see a now reading bar. This is to give you easy access to the last book that you had open in Libby. So because I had just opened Untamed, it's going to show me that book so that I can jump right back in. I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this for now so that we can see that full navigation bar here. So we talked about the two icons to the left of the Libby menu at the beginning of the presentation. First, we tapped on the library card to search or to browse the library's digital collection of ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines. This is when we didn't know exactly what we're looking for and we just wanted to browse around. Then we tapped on the magnifying glass to search for something specific. So that's when we looked for a title, author, magazine name, or series name. So when you know exactly what you're looking for. We're now going to come over to the shelf. So we're going to be to the right of the Libby menu. That first icon to the right, you can see that little stack of books on the bookshelf. I'm going to be tapping on that here. And this is going to be where you are going to find all of your loans and holds. So you can see up here at the top, I could click any of these filters to filter just my loans or just my holds. Here on the main page, you can see my recent loans and then some books that I borrowed earlier in the weeks. So I always like to tell new users, if you ever get lost in that navigation bar, a really easy way to remember where you need to be is to think of it like you grab your library card and take it to the library to find a book to borrow, right? And then once you borrow that book from the friendly librarians at the circulation desk, that's when you go drive back home and you put that book on your shelf. So if you ever get lost, try to think of it that way. That really helped me when I was a new user as well. So here on the shelf, you can see that title I just borrowed with you earlier in the presentation, but I'm going to be opening up this audiobook here to talk about a few things in there. So I'm going to tap open in Libby here next to my audiobook. Up at the top of the screen, that's where you're going to see your reading progress. So I'm 0% of the way through here. I made it about 34 seconds before I paused it. I have 15 hours left to go. Now, down in the bottom of the player, that's where you will find that play button. You just tap on play and that will start the narrator. Now, you can't hear what's going on your end, so you can hear me, but she is going here on my end. Now, one thing I like to mention to new users is that Libby is designed to play audiobooks in the background. So you can minimize the app and still listen to your audiobook. And because Libby is designed to do that, when you're done listening to your audiobook for the time being, you're gonna need to tap on pause. So we don't have a stop button, it is a pause button. Just go ahead and tap on pause. That will stop the narrator from talking. And then that's when you can close the app or go back and search for a new book. If you don't tap on pause, it's going to continue to play. That can be a pain to go find your place the next time you go to listen to your book. So just a warning there. All right, let's go ahead and leave this audiobook. So just like in the ebook, that top left-hand corner there, we're going to tap on back, and it takes us back to our shelf. So I'm going to come down to that navigation bar again here. You can see I have a new now reading bar. Remember, it's always the last book that we had open in Libby for easy access. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that there. Just get it out of the way so we can see that full navigation bar again. Really quickly, I'm just going to tap into the activity timeline so you can see what that looks like. You can see here it's a little clock icon. This is a brief overview of all of your past activity. So this is all of the books you've borrowed in the past, or renewed in the past, or returned in the past. So that clock is all past activity. Your bookshelf is all of your current loans and holds. All right, we're going to stop in the presentation today talking about the Libby menu. That's in the very center of that navigation bar. So right now on that Libby icon, you can see I have a little red bubble and it has a 1 inside there. That's actually a notification that Libby is telling me about. So let's go ahead and tap on Libby's head and see what she has to say. So up at the top of this Libby menu here, that's where that notification is appearing. So I had a hold lapse and I didn't borrow it in time. Shame on me. So this is a notification letting me know about an important event in Libby. And I'm going to show you what those are and why they are important. First, to do that, I'm going to dismiss this current notification out of the way just by swiping it to the left. You can see a new box has taken its place. And I'm going to tap on Manage Notification here. Now, you are going to be prompted to manage your notifications the very first time you place a hold. So it's going to be easier for you to get to the screen that I'm about to access than doing this. But just so that you know, you'll be prompted the very first time you place a hold. So notifications are what alert you about important events in Libby. There are 3 ways to be notified. You'll find those up here at the top. Ignore is a choice you can make if you're not interested in receiving a notification about a particular event. A menu badge is going to be an in-app notification, and then that means that you have to have the Libby app open to see it. And you actually just saw exactly what that looks like. So the first indication of that in-app menu badge was the red bubble that was on Libby's head with the number inside. And then once I tapped that Libby menu, it appeared at the top of the screen in that box, and I swiped it out of the way. So you have to have the Libby app open to see the menu badge. That's a really good option for you if you are going to open Libby every single day. If you're not going to open Libby every single day, I recommend choosing the blue notification option. This is going to be a push notification, and that means it will appear on your device's screen regardless of what app you have open. So you could be looking at Libby, but you could also be reading the news or browsing Facebook, or your device could be asleep somewhere else in the house, and the next time you open it, it will appear on your device's screen, just like a text message would. So that is a good option for you if you're not going to be opening Libby every single day, but you want to make sure you're being notified about those important events. So these are the 3 ways, again, that you can be notified. Right underneath that are the things that you can be notified about. The most important thing to be notified about is hold ready. And the reason it's important to be notified that your hold is ready is because when it's your turn on a wait list, Libby's going to give you a 3-day period where that book is in limbo and you are the only person who can take action on it. In that 3-day period, more specifically 72 hours, the 3 actions that you can take is to borrow the hold, to cancel the hold, or to have the hold delivered later. And delivered later is a feature that we have that if you get busy what you can do is set a time period where you stay at the top of the wait list and people will skip over you in line until that time period ends. And then once that time period ends, you'll be the next person in line. So that 3-day period has come, you can take one of those 3 actions. And if you don't take any of those 3 actions, that's when Libby is going to automatically deliver the title later one time as a courtesy. And then you'll get it a 3-day limbo period a second time. In that second 3-day limbo period, if you don't take action again, that's when Libby is going to cancel your hold. So that means you'll have to go and find the book again and rejoin the wait list, which will put you all the way to the bottom. So that's why I say it's really important to make sure that you are being notified that your hold is ready. So you're not missing any of those good books you waited, a decent amount of time for. All right, I'm going to come up to the top here and tap on back. We just have 2 more things in the Libby menu to talk about. So under those notifications, you'll see your library cards. So you can see I have 2 different library cards attached to Libby. You can add multiple library cards to Libby. These can all be from the same library. If you have multiple people in your family who want to share a single device, you can all add your library cards to that device so you're not fighting over that loan limit. You can also add multiple library cards from different libraries if you have a valid library card for them. So we like to mention this in case you have, a second house somewhere else and have access to another library there. You can, if they have overdrive services, you can add it here to the Libby app as well, which just gives you more access to titles. Down at the very bottom, there is a help and support section. If you tap on Get Some Help here, this is where you can find common solutions. And I always like to point out the copy to my other device. So you saw Joe point that out in the sign-in process. If you have 2 devices or more than 2 devices that you want to set Libby up on, here is where you can find your code on your original device in this common solutions section. Up at the very top, this is where you can type in questions or keywords. So one thing I don't talk about in this presentation is how to return titles early to the library. And that's because with 30 minutes, I want to just stick to the very, very basics of Libby, those need to know features to get started. And because titles return automatically on their due date, that is not a need to know, just a like to know. But here is a good example of how you can find out more about the Libby app if you're curious about certain things. So I'm just going to type in return. I like to make Libby work sometimes, just typing in a keyword instead of a full question. Make her guess. And then once I tap on search, you can see she's populated a few different articles here trying to guess. I'm going to tap on returning books. Up here at the top, you can see, just like me, she said, you don't have to worry about it. They return automatically on their due date. But if you do want to return your title early, here are the instructions to do so. So anytime you have a question, you can search for it or, ask it up in that box. If you can't find the answers you're looking for there, you can come down to the very bottom here. You'll see Ask Our Support Team. If you tap on that, that's going to connect you with Overdrive's technical support specialists. They are Libby experts, so there's not a question you can throw their way that they're not going to know the answer to. And they will also help you with any troubleshooting needs as well. So if you're ever having trouble downloading something or Libby's just acting funny, then you can message that support team and they will send over some troubleshooting steps via email. And that is everything you need to know from start to finish to get started with the Libby app. I'm going to let Joe take back over here on the screen and move on to some next steps.
Awesome. Thanks, Marissa. And thank you, everyone. I just have a few reminders here as we start to wrap up the getting started portion of our morning. As a reminder, you can ask Marissa and I anything throughout all of our time together this morning, and you can ask those questions anonymously. We'll be answering those. To help wrap up our getting started portion of the webinar, we wanted to test your knowledge, test what you just learned, and we encourage you to stick around. We've got 8 questions here, a little mini quiz for you to see how you fared after this getting started demo. After that, we will be going into our deep dive session at 10:45. We recommend you stick around for this if you are still feeling confident and ready to learn more. Let that quiz be kind of a test. If you get through those questions and you go, you know what, I knew all of that and I am still ready to get some more info on the Libby app, great, stick around. But if you are tired, need to step away, or if you are just at your max, no worries, you can hop off. I'll have a final, like a last call, so to speak, before we dive into our deep dive session. We just recommend kind of doing that because you will be able to review it tomorrow morning when you receive that recording from Zoom. So even though you might not see it live today, you won't miss out on that information. All right, with all of that out of the way, let's roll into our quizzes. I'm going to change the slide here in just a minute, but before we do that, I wanted to preface, we are going to be using the Zoom polling feature. So the questions will appear in the center of your screen automatically. If you are using a desktop or a laptop computer, if you are using more than one monitor, they may appear elsewhere. And if you're joining us on a mobile device today, you may have to tap on the poll icon in the Zoom meeting controls. All right, so I am going to dive into question number 1 here. So I'm going to get this launched. I'll read the question, but feel free to answer at any point. These questions are completely anonymous, so hopefully that compels you to answer with us. So we're going to start in the navigation bar. In the navigation bar, what do you tap to browse your library's digital collection? This is when you are browsing for titles, you don't know what you're looking for specifically. The magnifying glass, the library card, the Libby menu, the stack of books, or the clock. So we just want to browse today. We're not looking for anything specific. We're at about 70% here. So I'm going to close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, well, our trick question worked, Marissa. We had most people say magnifying glass, but the correct answer is the library card. So when you want to browse your library's collection, we suggest you go to that library card icon in the navigation bar. This is where you can scroll through the different curated collections, and it gives you that feeling and experience like you're walking around the library and seeing the different things that your friendly neighborhood librarians have put together for you. Now, if you said magnifying glass, you are correct in some ways. We suggest using that magnifying glass when you know specifically what you're looking for, like a title or an author or a series name. Of course, there's more functionality to that magnifying glass, but when you want to browse, you grab your card and go to the library. And when you know what you're looking for, you're searching around, you're sleuthing for it with that magnifying glass. Great work, everyone. All right, we're going to stick in the navigation bar for question 2. In the navigation bar, what do you tap to find your loans and holds? So these are the books that you are currently reading and listening to or waiting to become available. The magnifying glass, the library card, the Libby menu, the stack of books, or the clock. Awesome. I'm going to close this one in 3, 2, 1. And 100% correct on that one from our participants. Great job, everyone. Your loans and holds live on your shelf, and to access your shelf, you tap on that stack of books icon. From here, you'll see a few suggestions from Libby, but if you want to break it down to just look at your loans or just look at your holds, you can tap through the different pieces at the top. Also a little sneak peek for our tips and tricks session. You can see your tags up there as well. All right, question number 3. We're going to dive into an ebook. And in an ebook, what are 3 ways you can customize its appearance? Multiple choice, so select all that apply. You can change the text scale or the size of the font, the lighting or the background color of the book design or the font the book is written in, or the language the book is written in. So there are 3 correct answers. I'm going to close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, great work, everyone. This is our second trick question, and we got a couple of you with it. So I'm going to start this video here. If you want to change your appearance settings, tap in the center of the screen and then tap on that A icon to pull up the appearance menu. Your first option is the text scale or the size of the font. You can make every book large print. Then you have lighting options. We love that dark mode for reading at night. It's easier on your eyes. And then the third option is book design, or the font that the book is written in. And Marissa pointed out that custom option. It's just underneath our Open Dyslexic font option as well. Now, if you guessed language, that is a fair guess. Your library offers books in a lot of different languages. But that is a choice you have to make before you borrow the book. Similar to like if you want an ebook or an audiobook, you have to decide if you want that book in a different language. Not something you can change once it's checked out. Great work, everyone. All right, this one's a quick one. Question number 4, true or false? Titles return automatically on their due date. So titles return themselves on their due date, true or false? I'm going to close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, everyone was correct with that one. The correct answer is true. Titles return automatically on their due date, so you never have to worry about fines or late fees. But if you want to return a title early, maybe it's got a long wait list, you finished it a week or 2 early and you want to send it to the next person waiting, let's see how to do that. So we will, there we go. We'll tap on our shelf icon, our stack of books, then tap on Manage Loan, and then tap Return Early. This will return that book ahead of its due date. There you go. Question number 5. This one is about when holds become available. So when a hold becomes available, you can borrow the title, have the title delivered later, or cancel your hold. How long do you have to make one of these choices? 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, or 1 week? So Marissa mentions this when she was talking about notification settings. I'm going to close this one in 3, 2, 1. All right, awesome work, everyone. Totally correct. You have 3 days or 72 hours to make one of these choices. When a book becomes available, you'll see Libby notifying you ready to borrow, and you can choose either borrow, deliver later, or if you decide you don't want that hold, you can tap on Manage Hold and then Cancel Hold. Similar to returning titles early, holds look pretty similar. All right, question number 6. Let's look at some audiobooks. How can you tell if a title is an audiobook while browsing? It has a smaller jacket cover. There's a headphone icon. There's a runtime present underneath the jacket cover, or all of the above. I'm going to close this in 3, 2, 1. All right, great work, everybody. The correct answer is all of the above. We can see on the screen here, audiobooks have shorter jacket covers, and underneath there is a headphone icon with the total runtime present. If you are in a search or a list view, you'll also see play sample. Whereas with this ebook of the same title, we have that full-size jacket cover, nothing underneath it, and instead it says read sample. So there's lots of ways you can see if a book is an ebook or an audiobook, but those are just the great ways to tell right from scrolling by if you truly want to judge a book by its cover. All right, question number 7. We only have one question left after this. Another true or false, quick one for you. True or false, you can add multiple library cards in Libby. And everyone flew through that one. I'm going to close this in 3, 2, 1. Awesome. 100% correct. Y'all are doing fantastic. Libby is designed to store multiple library cards and have anything you borrow live on one shared shelf. If you want to add more than one library card, whether it is from the same library you belong to and you're a family sharing a device, or if you are someone who has access to cards throughout the world, you'll be able to do that by tapping on the Libby menu, navigating to your libraries, and then tapping on Add a Library. From here, similar to the setup process, you'll look for your library by either the name, the city, or the zip code. Once you find your selection, tap on the box, and then once you're in that collection, you'd enter those account details. Of course, you have to have an active and valid library card from a library that has Overdrive services, but we are in over 90% of the libraries in the US and Canada, and we're an international company. All right, final question here. I see we're just a little over time, but we're going to do this one. We're here, we might as well. So question number 8, we're finishing where we started, back in the navigation bar. What do you tap on to find common solutions to frequently asked questions? The magnifying glass, the library card, the Libby menu, the stack of books, or the clock? So where do you go when you want to reach our support team or find tips and helpful things or ask a question? I'm going to close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, y'all did fantastic this morning. A lot of wonderful answers, correct answers, great participation. We love to see it. We love that you participated with us this morning. The correct answer is the Libby menu. This is where you can find help and support. So tap on the Libby menu, make your way to help and support, and then tap on Get Some Help. From here, you'll see common solutions to frequently asked questions, or you can type in keywords or short phrases to find the answers you need within the Libby app. Or that's also where you'd go to contact our tech support team. All right, well, thank you, everyone. That wraps up the getting started portion of this morning. We're gonna roll over into our tips and tricks session in just 1 minute here. As mentioned before, if you are kind of at your max, or if you feel like you are done absorbing info for the day, we welcome you to hop off here and know that you will be able to receive and review that recording tomorrow morning in that email from Zoom. If you are hopping off, you can tap leave in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And when you do, a survey will appear in your browser. If you can take a minute to fill that out, Marissa and I would both appreciate it greatly. If you are sticking around or just joining us, thank you for your patience and sit tight as we dive in. So if you are just joining us, welcome. I'm Joe. I'm here with my teammate Marissa, and we're both digital book specialists here at Overdrive. This morning, we'll be moving into our Libby tips and tricks portion of our Learn Libby from the Experts webinar. And this is where we take a deeper dive into our favorite features in the Libby app. Before we hop in, just a few housekeeping items, and I'm going to move kind of quickly through these since most of you have heard them already. We are recording our session, and you will receive that email. You will receive that recording in an email tomorrow morning from Zoom. We recommend, since you will be receiving this email, that you take the time to watch and absorb what we're presenting and wait to try these tips out on your own until after we've made it through all 5 of the tips that we're going to present. Then you can ask questions on them or look for clarity. Now, this session is designed to not only show off some of our favorite features, but also to answer your questions. You can ask those throughout the entire webinar using the Q&A feature in your Zoom meeting controls. This session is a little different than our getting started session. I may be marking some of these to be answered as live, so Marissa can demo them live on screen toward the end after we wrap up our 5 tips. So keep in mind, you might see this will be answered live. And last but not least, Marissa will be using her demo device, and sometimes Zoom cuts off part of the view. We want to make sure you are seeing that full iPad display, so I'll be sending out directions on how to correct that if you are not seeing her full screen. Now we have 5 tips and tricks for you today based off of your library's collection. So we'll be showing you how to read magazines, customize your browsing experience, filter and refine your searches to find the titles you like faster, make tags, and then create notes and highlights. So I'm going to let Marissa connect her iPad here, and she's going to take us through these features. And we will see how that runs. As a reminder, of course, if you have any questions, send those through. I will be here answering them or marking them to show off later. So thank you all for joining us. And it looks like Marissa's connected, so I'll let her dive right in.
All right, thank you, Joe. And again, Joe's just gonna chat out those instructions for resizing your view if you cannot see the 5 icons down in my navigation bar. So starting with the magnifying glass and ending with that clock, if you can't see those, then those directions that Joe is just about to chat out will help you fix that. The other thing I want to mention before I get started is that this tips and tricks session is segmented, unlike our getting started session where it had a really nice flow to it. We are going to be jumping around the app a bit. So that's why we always give that warning of if you're not feeling comfortable yet, then maybe this is a session you might want to skip for now. But just know I'm going to be skipping around the app, and I will try my best to keep us all oriented. So let's start out with tip number 1. That's going to be reading magazines. So I'm going to open up a magazine here on my shelf, that stack of books. This is where all my loans and holds will be. I'm going to tap open in Libby on a magazine here that I already had borrowed and downloaded. So one thing you're going to hear me say a lot in the magazine experience is you are going to find what works best for you. And that's because there are 4 different ways that you can navigate throughout the magazine experience and 2 different ways that you can read articles within magazines. I'm going to show you all of those, and you will figure out what works best for you. So I am going to start by talking about these menus up at the top and the bottom of the screen. So this bottom menu in particular is 2 of the ways that you can navigate throughout a magazine. The first is with these thumbnails. So you could tap any of these thumbnails to navigate to that particular page. The second way that you can navigate in this lower menu here is in this bar that you see. So if you stayed from the getting started session, you'll know that this bar showed up both in the ebook and audiobook experience as well. So if you tap in the very center of that bar, it could say the chapter name, it could simply say chapter, or the article name if you're in a magazine. If you tap on the center there, that is where you can access the table of contents. So this is Libby's table of contents here. We could skip through pages by scrolling through this table of content and choosing which article we would like to jump to. I'm going to go ahead and tap on hide though. And then I'm going to hide these menus by tapping in the center of the screen. The third way to navigate throughout a magazine is just like in the ebook experience. You can tap or swipe to page forward. Now, this is my mom's way to do it. She likes to see every single page in the magazine. She doesn't care if it's an ad. She wants to go from start to finish and look through the entire thing. I'm not like that. I am in many ways like my mom. That is not one of them. But what I like to do is navigate forward to the masthead. That is the magazine's table of contents. Here we're on that page right now. And then I like to just select what article I'm looking for here. So let's just go ahead and choose an article. These are all links. And then by tapping that article, Libby will drag you right there. So those are the 4 ways that you can navigate throughout a magazine. You will figure out what works best for you, but those all are options available to you. Now, once you get to an article that you would like to read, there are 2 ways to read it. The first is going to be if you tap on the center of the screen, you'll have a zoom button up in the top right-hand side. So if you tap on zoom, this is going to make it so that you use your fingers to pinch in and out of the screen. And you can see here, sometimes it's cumbersome. There we go. So you use your fingers to zoom in. When you're done reading it, you zoom out. And that is one of the ways that you can read the magazine article. Now, as you can see, sometimes my fingers just like want to do whatever they want to do. And so it can get Libby all flustered. If you want an easier way to read an article, what I suggest is the read the article button down at the bottom of the screen. If you tap on this, it will bring up your article in one easy to view menu where you scroll up and down to view and read the article. And any ebook appearance settings that you set will carry on over into your magazine experience. So this is actually a font that I prefer, the font size I prefer. So it already knows what I want. And it's all in an easy to view menu. So you're not having to pinch in and out. You can just scroll through this menu here. But again, you're gonna find what works best for you. I have seen both options are things that people like. So you can be the decider of how you'd like to read those magazine articles. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and tap above this menu here. That's just gonna drop it out of the way. And then I'm gonna leave that magazine. Those are the important things that you need to know inside that magazine experience. I'm gonna tap on the center of the screen and then tap on back up in the left-hand corner here. And that's gonna take us back to our shelf. And I'm gonna jump over now into the library card. So I'm coming down to the navigation bar here. I'm gonna dismiss my now reading bar. And then I'm going to tap on the library card icon. Remember that library card icon is where you are going to go if you want to browse your library's digital collection. And we're coming here because tip number 2 is all about customizing your browsing experience. So here on the library card icon, I'm going to scroll down just a tiny bit. In our getting started session, you heard me talk about catalog guides. These are all going to differ from library to library. So yours are going to look a little bit different than mine. One that you have that I don't have that's good to note is a magazine catalog guide. So you can find magazines really easy using that. But what I want to point out is down at the bottom. Even though all of these might be different from library to library, everyone's always going to have this preferences button. And if you tap on preferences, this is going to let you set app-wide saved filters that are saved and applied to all lists. And these are really good when you want every search and browsing list to come up and filter out certain titles. So you can see here, I only speak and read English well enough to only want to see English titles come up in my searches. If I see Spanish titles, I'm not going to be able to read them. If I see French titles, I'm not going to be able to read them. So I only want to see English titles in my searches. It just is easier and it takes less time to look for a book. So that is a preference that I set. Some other preferences that might be of interest to you is if you're setting up a tablet for, a kid, then you can set an audience preference. You could set that to juvenile so that they are only seeing age-appropriate content. They're not seeing adult content when they're searching or browsing for titles. Another good example is format. Now, our job typically, when it's not COVID, is to travel all over the US and Canada to talk to library patrons about Libby. And we know that the vast majority of readers specifically like ebooks or specifically like audiobooks. They really prefer one format. So if you are like that, if you only want to listen to audiobooks, you can set an audiobook preference here. If you only want to read ebooks, you can set an ebook preference here. That way, in your searches and browsing experiences, you're only seeing the content that you want to see. So I have that English preference set. If you tap on Apply Preferences, that's going to refresh the page there, and you'll see a number next to the Preferences button. So that number is just letting you know, hey, you currently have something that's filtering your lists. So it's just an FYI in case, maybe something that is in your library's collection isn't showing up. It's likely because your preferences are filtering it out. So always look for that indicator. So that's the first way you can customize your browsing experience. The second way you can customize your browsing experience is with your curated lists here. So there are two types of lists. There's generated lists, that means a computer did it. And there's librarian lists, that means your awesome librarians in your system have put together that list for you. Now, very rarely do I come across a librarian list that I don't want to see. But if you do occasionally come across a list, here is one. I don't have any kids, so I am not really interested in read-along titles. What I'm going to do is hide this list from my view. So you can see here that minimize button. If I tap on that, it will prompt me to hide this list for all of my future visits. Once you tap proceed, that will disappear from your curated lists, and then a new list will take its place down at the bottom. If you accidentally hide a list, that's okay. You can scroll all the way to the bottom here. It might take you a second because there's lots of great lists on this page. But at the very bottom of the page, there will be a single button that says restore your lists, and you can bring all those hidden lists back. But this is going to be something that you're continually doing. So preferences, like I said, you set the preference, and then moving forward, Libby's going to continue filtering out those books that you don't want until you change them again. So it is a sticky preference. Whereas these curated lists, the library is always wanting to show you something fresh and new. So they might be coming out with new lists daily or weekly or monthly. So this is going to be something you're continuously doing. You might find lists that you want to hide, next week or 2 weeks from now. So that's an ongoing process. And that is tip number 2, filtering your browsing experience. I'm now going to move into tip number 3. What I like to say is the sister to tip number 2, which is filtering and refining your searches so that you can find the books that you like faster. And for this tip, I'm going to have a little prompt here. So let's say COVID does not exist, and tomorrow I'm going to take my mom on a road trip to Dollywood. And so for our road trip, we need an audiobook because it's not quite illegal yet to read and drive. We need it to be available now because we're going on our road trip tomorrow. I don't want anything that I have to place a hold on. I typically like to listen to memoirs, but I'm going to let Mom choose this time. And she's a big historical fiction mystery reader. So that's going to be the subject that we're looking for. And then she's also a very fast reader. So I need it to be a new release because she's likely read all of the older stuff. So that is my 4 criteria here. Audiobook that's available now. It needs to be a historical fiction mystery, and it needs to be a new release. So we're going to stay on this library card. Remember, down in the navigation bar, that library card is where you browse for titles. And up at the top are our filters. Now I'm going to start here in these filters. I like to start a lot of my browsing and searching here with these filters. They're a really good place to start. So one of my criteria was available now, right? I don't want to place a hold. So I'm going to go ahead and just start with that filter here by tapping on available now. Now I want to point out up at the top here, you can see I'm looking at available titles in English. Remember, I set that preference so that I'm only seeing English titles and I'm not seeing titles in any other languages. So I already have that filter in place. So available titles here in this list, 38,000 books, 21,000 audiobooks, and 2,400 magazines. I could be looking here all day. I have done that before, but let's say we're in a hurry. Let's go ahead and filter out any of the books and magazines. So we're going to narrow it down to just the audiobooks by tapping this audiobook button here at the top. You can see now that number has dropped. We're only looking at 21,000 audiobooks. So we have 2 of our 4 criteria down already. We're looking at available audiobooks now. Now we just need to add our subjects. So what I'm going to do is come over to Refine here on the right side of the screen. And when you tap into this, you will notice that all of these categories are very similar to preferences. And I like to point this out so that you know that preferences are sticky and will remain the same until you change them again. Whereas refining is temporary and for the search that you're making right at this moment. So with a preference, you can set that preference, close your tablet or phone down, come back a week or a month from now, and that preference is going to be there. Refining, on the other hand, is something that you can filter the specific list you're looking at right now, and then the next time you search for a book, it's going to revert back to showing you everything again. So that's the difference there between refine and preferences. Here in this refine menu, I'm going to select subject and then select mystery. So you'll see we'll drop down from 21,000 titles to 2,800 titles. Now we're only looking at mystery titles right now. So I'm going to add a second subject. I'm going to tap on refine, come down to subject, and choose historical fiction, because my mom, she doesn't just like mysteries. She wants them to be, you know, all dolled up in their dresses and corsets. So I want to see mystery titles that are also historical fiction titles. You can see that number has now dropped to 205. I like to point this out so that you know you can find niche subjects here. You're not limited to a broad subject like mystery. You can narrow that down further so that you can find the books that you want in particular. You can add more than 2 subjects as well. I get to about 5 before Libby's like, okay, you're putting in way too much criteria. Nothing matches this. But just know that you can add additional subjects, not just 2. All right, so 3 criteria down. We have 1 more to go. I'm going to tap on refine. And now we're going to sort this list. So my mom, again, she's a fast reader. I need something that is new. So I'm going to tap on sort by. And instead of popularity, I'm going to sort by release date. That's going to show all of the newest titles up at the top of the list. And as we make our way down the list, those titles will get older. So again, just to end this tip here, we started out with over 60,000 titles and have now narrowed this list down to 205. So this is how you can filter and refine those books to find the books you like faster. Instead of spending all day looking for a book, I'm probably only going to spend 2 hours, and it'll be a lovely 2 hours. I will enjoy every minute of it. All right, so we are done with tip number 3, filtering and refining books to find, or searches to find the books you like faster. We're now going to move into tip number 4, which is tagging titles. And I'm just going to stay in this search here. We're still searching for a book for my mom and I. Tags are a really great way to organize books in Libby. And this is one of the main differences between the Overdrive app and the Libby app. So Overdrive gives you a wish list and a history, whereas Libby gives you a tagging system where you can create as many tags as you'd like. They can be named whatever you like. So it's really robust and you are only limited to your own imagination. So here in this search, you can see that the third option you'll have next to all of your jacket covers is tag. Now I'm going to tap tag here. When you want to tag a book, you tap on tag and this menu will pop up here in the bottom. Now, the first choice that you're going to have is adding your book to tags that you currently have. So I'm going to talk about these here first. You can see there's two categories of tags that I have. The first are regular tags. They don't have any special abilities. I just created these lists to keep track of certain books. So I created a wish list, my to be read, just so I could keep track of books that I'm interested in reading later. I also created a cooking tag so that I can keep track of recipes that I enjoyed in certain cookbooks that I've borrowed in the past. These, again, don't have any special abilities. They just organize my books. This bottom set of tags are smart tags. These do have special abilities. The first smart tag is a tag that everyone is going to have starting out in the Libby app. This is a tag that will automatically apply to any books that you've borrowed in the past. So anytime you borrow a book, it will automatically be tagged with this little receipt, just like if you went to the checkout, the circulation desk at the library and got a receipt with your checkouts. So that is a smart tag that will apply to any books that you've borrowed in Libby. And you can delete this. I'll show you how to do that later on in the tip. The other tag down here is a notify me tag. And the notify me tag is specific to magazines, but you can name it whatever you want. You see, I named mine magazines. And what will happen is the very first time you borrow a magazine, Libby is going to prompt you to create your notify me tag. What the notify me tag does is any magazines that you favorite into this tag, you are going to be notified when a new issue of that magazine is put into the library's digital collection. So you're going to be prompted the very first time you create or you borrow a magazine to create your notify me tag. You can name it again, whatever you want. You see, I named mine magazines. And then thereafter, anytime you borrow a magazine, Libby's going to ask you if you then want to add it to your notify me tag. So these smart tags are special abilities. Now, this particular book I'm going to tag, I don't want to add it to any of these current tags I have. So what I'm going to do is tap on new tag, and we'll show you how to create a tag. So mystery titles, I have to be in a very specific mood to read mystery titles. So I'm just going to create a mystery tag here so that I can track any of those mystery books that I'm interested in reading, just not right now. So I'm going to type in mystery here and then tap on go. You could also tap on done as well. And you can see that tag has now applied next to that search. So I stay in this search for a reason, because remember, we're looking for those books for me and my mom to listen to on our drive. As I scroll through this list, I can now see, oh, I've tagged this as of interest. It's a mystery title. I've tagged this of interest as well. I have it on my to be read wish list. And then that smart tag also pops up. I know that I've read this title in the past because it's automatically tagged with that borrowed smart tag. I can just skip it in this list and move on without having to read about its details, because I often forget what I read. And that is a nice little indicator there. So this is how you can tag titles. Now I'm going to move over to the shelf so you can see where those tags are. So I'm going to come down to the navigation bar. You see that stack of books there. I'm going to tap on that. And I gave it a little double tap. That's why it moved up to the top of the page there. And at the top of the page, you'll see your loan and hold filters, and then you'll see your tags being listed. It'll always show 2 tags here, and then you can tap on more to view all of your tag lists. let's go ahead and jump into my wish list here. So I'm going to tap on to be read tag, and you can see here is my wish list. Now, this is my little tip inside of a bigger tip. Anytime you see this little library card icon, it could be a calendar icon as well if there's currently a wait list on that title. What you can do is tap on that icon there, and you can borrow or place a hold directly from the screen without having to move around the app. So that's the first perk of that icon there. But more importantly, down below, if you have multiple cards attached to your Libby account, then this will show you how many copies of that title each of your library owns. And this is really good if you have, or you're interested in a book that has a long waiting list. You can see if there's a shorter waiting list somewhere else, or perhaps one of your libraries doesn't own a copy of that title, but another one does. So I always like to show that off so that you know that option is available there. All right, I'm going to tap above that menu to drop it out of the way. So one of the things I want to mention with your tag lists here is that you can export them out for printing and more. So I'm going to tap on Actions up here at the top of my tagged list. This is where you can rename your tag or delete it if you don't want that smart auto tag. And then you can also export your tag as well. So I'm going to tap on Export here. Just like I say in magazines, you're going to figure out which of these options works best for you. I've seen lots of people like every single option there. I, in particular, like the table option, so that's what I'm going to choose here. Now, once we're in that data export page, up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see the box with the arrow pointing up. That is the share button. This is a universal button in apps. It's not specific to Libby. Anytime you see that share button, you will be able to tap it and send this out in a text message. You could email it as well. And then if you scroll your way down this list, you can also print it out as well. So if you want to take this physical list to the physical library to find the book there, then that is an option for you too. And that is tip number 4, tagging titles. One of my favorite tips. I have on my personal device like 100 tag lists. I'm a little bit of a psycho when it comes to organizing my books. But that is tip number 4. We're now going to go ahead and move into our 5th and final tip of the day, which is making notes and highlights in an ebook. So I'm here on my shelf. I'm going to open up an ebook. Notes and highlights are great for anyone who's in book club, any students who might be reading for for school, for book. And then also, if you're just like me and Joe and like to annotate your books for fun, you can do that as well. So let's go ahead. I'm going to page forward until I get to a nice chunk of text here. So when you want to save a note or a highlight, when you want to save a passage with a note or a highlight, what you're going to do is tap and hold your finger on the first word in the passage. So my mouse is going to be a little bit to the left, just so you can see what happens when I put my finger on the screen. But I'm going to tap and hold this. You can see it turns blue. Keep your finger on the screen as soon as you tap it. So if you tap like this, it's going to turn the page. As soon as your finger touches the screen, leave it on the screen, and then start dragging it across the screen until the full passage that you want to save is blue. Once that happens, you can then lift your finger off the screen and your highlight menu will appear at the bottom. You can tap on highlight here or choose a specific color if you want to stay organized. Once you choose your color, you can then tap on that highlighted passage to make a note. Now, I have written full paragraphs here in this for my own book clubs, but just for the sake of presentation, I'm going to say this is a note and then tap on save. And then I'm going to page forward. Now, let's say you're farther inside the book and you want to reference a past note or highlight that you've made. What you're going to do is tap in the center of the screen And then up in the top of the top menu, you'll see the multiple bookmark icon. We are going to tap on that. And this is going to drop down a list of your notes and highlights. So you can see a little sample of the highlight that you made and then your full note. If you want to jump back, all you have to do is tap on that. It's a link, so it will drag you right back to that passage. And then you can tap on your highlight to view the note. Now, we know sometimes you're going to want to access these notes even after the title has returned to the library. So lots of people will borrow a book for book club and then it returns to the library. It's on a long wait list and then their book club comes up. You can still access them even after title has returned to the library. So let me show you how to do that before we wrap up. I'm going to tap in the center of the screen to make those menus reappear, and then we're going to leave this book here. All right, so when you want to find your notes and highlights for a title that has returned to the library already, what you're going to do is look for its details page. There's a couple ways you can find that. You could go to the magnifying glass and search for that book and then tap on the jacket cover in the search to find the details page. You could also go to your activity timeline down here in the bottom, that clock, because it's all your past activities. So you could find the book there. That might take you a while, but you could do it. And then the third way, I think is the easiest way, is this borrowed smart tag. I know that I've borrowed it recently. I'm going to go ahead and tap into my smart tag. And here it is. It's that 5th book on the list. I've made notes and highlights in this when I had it. It's currently on a wait list, we know, because it has that calendar icon. So I do not have the choice to borrow this book if I wanted to. So what I'm going to do is tap on its jacket cover to view its title details page. And any book that you've borrowed in the past is going to have a reading journey. Your reading journey starts as soon as you borrow the book, and then it will capture every action that you take with the book in your possession. Up at the top of your reading journey, just like those tags, you'll have an actions button. If you tap on actions, that's going to allow you to export your reading data. I'm not going to walk through all these steps again because you just saw it, and you can reference it in the recording if you'd like, but you can export these out in a message or email or print them out just like those tags. And then even easier, if you don't want to print those out and you just want to see what your notes and highlights were in this title, just scroll down on this page, again, that reading journey. You'll see your timeline for this title here at the bottom, and you can tap on any of your highlights here to view those directly in the app. So it will show you the full passage that you highlighted and then your note down at the bottom as well. And that is our 5th and final tip for today, making notes and highlights in the Libby app. So I'm going to open this back up and let Joe take back over for questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Marissa. And thank you all for joining us. This wraps up the tips and tricks demo, but we now have time here to answer any questions or show off any features live on Marissa's screen here. We have a little less than 10 minutes left, but please feel free to type out those questions and we will demo any features live on screen. And it looks like we had a question pop up about the recording. That will come automatically tomorrow to the email that you registered with. So no worries about that. Now, Marissa and I do have 2 fun, quick features on deck for when there aren't a ton of questions. Let's see. Everyone should be receiving that email automatically. If your email was registered, it should be coming through. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. And I will also be sending the link to the recording to our point of contact within your library, so they will have that link as well. So if for some reason you don't receive it, that will also be handed off to your library, who may want to post it on their social media or share it in a larger way as well. So if you don't get it, but also if for some reason you don't get that recording, it should come around this time tomorrow, because it's 24 hours after we wrap up. You should all have my email for any issues or questions regarding the Zoom process, so I can always send it to you that way if you don't receive it automatically from Zoom. So those two features I was mentioning are in the Libby menu. We just like to show off a few of the customization features we've got here. So when we tap into the Libby menu, there we go. The first one is that you can change Libby's skin tone. We believe representation is important. So if you tap on Libby's face there, you have some different skin tone options. The other kind of customization you can make is you can change and personalize your library card colors. So if you tap on See Library Cards, and then tap on Actions, you can change the color of the card as it comes by default. So tap on Change Library Colors, and from there you can select and customize. While this may seem more like just a fun kind of vanity thing, this is a great feature if you're a family sharing one device with multiple cards from the same library, so you can keep everyone separated, so that way you're not having kids fighting because someone used their card and now they have a few less loans or holds. Marissa said it best, her and her sister would have fought tooth and nail for those limits. So making sure that you can kind of distinguish whose card is whose is definitely helpful. I also love this because if you have multiple library cards, sometimes libraries have very similar color choices for their cards, and you never want to be confused or borrow from the wrong branch. So just a helpful way to keep all that straight. All right, well, it looks like we don't have any other questions coming in. So I'm just going to throw this up on the screen. Thank you all so much for joining us today for our Learn Libby with the Experts webinar. We're excited that you were with us today, took some time out of your morning to participate and to soak up all of this info. Thank you all so much, and happy reading.
Happy reading.
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.